Yesterday I left my house for something as simple as buying salt. I had run out and I needed it to prepare the next day's meal. I thought it would take less than 5 minutes. But what happened next made me wonder how much of our lives is still shaped by beliefs that no one dares to question. I went to the first store. The answer came immediately. We don't sell salt at night. I asked why. The owner replied with complete confidence, it brings bad luck. I went to another store, thinking the answer would be different. Instead, I heard something even stranger. They told me that buying or selling salt at night could cause the death of either the seller or the buyer. I went home without any salt. I ate a bland meal, but that night, I came home with something far more valuable than a bag of salt. I came home with a question. Why do perfectly ordinary people believe something they've never seen a single piece of evidence for? Stay with me because this isn't really about salt. The first thing I did was check whether this was just a belief from my hometown. It wasn't. Versions of this superstition exist in Mexico, Colombia, Peru, parts of Spain, and even in communities throughout the Middle East. In some places, people say selling salt at night means you're indeed selling your family's good fortune. In others, they believe it attracts evil spirits, and in others, just like they told me, it could bring death to either the buyer or the seller. That was the moment that truly made me stop and think. How is it possible that people from completely different countries, who never met each other without the internet or communication for centuries, ended up creating almost the exact same rule? That doesn't happen by accident. When the same superstition appears independently across cultures that never had contact, it usually means one thing. There was once a practical reason behind it. Even if, over time, it became disguised as magic. And in the case of salt, the real reason is much older and much smarter than you might imagine. Today, salt costs almost nothing. You can walk into any grocery store and buy a bag without thinking twice. But for most of human history, salt was one of the most valuable resources on Earth. I'm not exaggerating. The word salary actually comes from salt. In ancient Rome, soldiers were sometimes paid with salt because it was considered as valuable as money. Why was it so precious? Because before refrigeration existed, salt was the only reliable way to preserve food. Without salt, meat spoiled within days. With salt, it could last for months. Quite literally, it was often the difference between surviving the winter or starving to death. Now imagine living in a small village where everyone's survival depended on their salt supply. One night, someone knocks on your door asking to buy your salt. That person wasn't just another customer. They represented a potential threat to your survival. This is where everything starts to make sense. At night, in villages without electricity, without streetlights, without cameras, and without any reliable way to identify strangers, an unexpected visitor immediately created suspicion. And if that stranger wanted your salt, your food reserve, your family's security, the suspicion became even stronger. At first, refusing to sell wasn't superstition. It was protection. It was a way of saying, boom, I'm not risking my family's survival for someone who appears in the darkness. Over time, that practical precaution became a social rule. And social rules, repeated across generations, eventually stop being explained with logic and start being explained with fear. It brings bad luck. Or someone will die, because fear is easier to remember than history. It's much simpler for a grandfather to tell his grandson, never sell salt at night, it brings bad luck, than to explain centuries of economics, food preservation, and survival. And that's how the rule survived. The original reason disappeared. The fear remained. Now here's the part that really made me think. And the reason I wanted to make this video. I don't believe in bad luck. You probably don't either. But when those two women refused to sell me salt, do you know what I did? I left. I didn't argue. I didn't tell them, that's just a superstition. Please sell it anyway. Why did I obey a rule I don't even believe in? Psychology has a very clear answer. It's called preventive social conformity. Your brain is designed to avoid conflict with your community, even when you rationally know a rule doesn't apply to you. It wasn't that I believed someone was going to die. It was that, in that moment, the social cost of insisting, making someone uncomfortable, being seen as the disrespectful outsider, breaking a community norm in front of everyone, felt greater than my need for salt. And this happens constantly in your own life, whether you realize it or not. You follow social rules that no longer make logical sense, not because you truly believe them, but because breaking them often feels more expensive than obeying them. And that's the idea I want you to remember. Superstitions don't survive because people are ignorant. They survive because at some point in history they solved a very real problem. Even if that problem no longer exists, today, no one is going to starve because they sold a bag of salt. The psychological mechanism that keeps those beliefs alive still works perfectly. It's the same mechanism that makes you avoid walking under a ladder, the one that makes you knock on wood after saying something good, the one that makes even the most rational person hesitate for just a second before opening an umbrella inside the house. It's not necessarily because you're superstitious. It's because your brain would rather follow an inherited rule it doesn't fully understand than risk breaking something that generations before you believed was important. And honestly, after researching all of this, I'm no longer bothered by what happened that night. Yes, I came home without salt, but I came home with something much more valuable: the realization that even the most ridiculous belief usually hides a very real story. So the next time someone tells you a superstition that sounds completely absurd, before laughing at it, ask yourself one question. What real problem was this belief solving 100, 200, or even 500 years ago? More often than not, the answer will surprise you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Did you grow up with this belief about salt? Or is there another superstition from your town or your family that you'd like me to investigate in a future video? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoyed discovering the real history behind something you always thought was just a superstition, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. In the next video, we'll uncover another popular belief that millions of people still follow, without ever knowing why. See you in the next video.